Hi, I am Cynthia L Simmons, and I'm an author and speaker and writer. And I was also a homeschool mom for over 20 years. I homeschooled 5 kids, including one disabled child. And I have Mavi with me today. She is also a homeschool mother. And we're going to just chat a few minutes about some of the problems you're going to anticipate. Because I know a lot of you mothers are home today and you may not have been used to homeschooling, but now you're doing it because you're trying to work at home. So I thought maybe we could just chat a little bit and see if I could help you. Welcome, Mavi.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me on this call. And I do want to say it's interesting. I've been dreaming of the day that I would homeschool my son Rio. And I technically haven't started just yet, but oh boy, have I been thrown into the fire very, very, very quickly. And, not only just for myself that I have so many questions that I've been wanting to ask you, but I feel like I'm asking all these questions for moms, not just nationwide, but internationally. And it was really sweet last night. As I was like just so excited to get on this phone call with you or Zoom call with you, I posted on my Facebook, and I wanted to see if I could get other moms to comment, whether they had other frustrations or questions that I could share with you. So I wanted to start off by sharing one of the sweetest ones from Lisa Mitchell. She wrote, I was listening to The Fish this week, and one homeschool mom had fantastic advice. She said, if your kids get angsty or are just not cooperating, let them go play outside for a while or eat lunch early. She explained there are no rules as to how long it takes. If you want to do math, then play, writing, then play, reading, then play. You do what works best for your kids, and not every day will be the same. Be flexible, she says. Her knowledge is a game changer for me. I would never do things this way. If I had it my way, I would just sit them down and make sure they would stay there until everything was done. Lisa was like talking just for me, I think, but wait a minute, no, just for all of us. Because I mean, if you would see, Cynthia, how I've been doing things thus far, it's like, real, sit down, don't move. We've got to
Yeah.
hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. How many more worksheets? So, what is the best way to start? And I love that she said the word be flexible. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I think being flexible is helpful because you're not in a school institution, you're in a home, and that makes a big difference. And I think too, when what you're touching on really is partly motivation because you have an active little boy, and little boys need to move and run. And so what I used to do was, especially with my disabled son, is that I would let him run off some energy and then it helped him concentrate. Little boys are the same way. They need to be able to concentrate, but a little reward, a sticker, a star. I mean, it's amazing sometimes what a star will do for a child, and brag on them because kids really need to hear positive feedback from you instead of just negative, negative, negative. So I used to walk past my kids every now and then and go, you are doing such a good job. And I would pray, okay, Lord, let's make them rise to the challenge because, the praise really does help a lot.
Awesome, thank you. So, as far as I mean, I guess there's no rules. Should I take it that way, or what would you suggest?
Well, I think there needs to be some kind of structure in your mind because you don't want your child just to get away with everything. You need to
Correct.
obviously be the mom who is more or less running things, but be a mom who is reasonable, take into consideration your child's personality, their temperament, um, and that sort of thing, and structure your day so that you meet the needs of the child while you have expectations. But you reward as they get done what you want done, and
Mhm.
you're going to know what your child needs. I mean, you're going to know what your child likes. So reward your child and praise him to excellence. Don't just accept it's done. I want it done really well. Praise them without hurting their spirit. I think
Okay.
that sets a better tone in the home than nag, nag, nag.
Okay. And now and I'm glad that you said that. Just because I have been nagging a lot. Total confession. And what I meant by the no rules was more like there's no homeschool rule for moms. Yes, we will provide rules and boundaries for our children, but we don't have a homeschool director saying, this is how you should be doing it, mom. So there's freedom.
There's freedom. And you know, you want your child to achieve. You want your child to learn. That should be your goal. I want you to learn. I want you to develop godly character. I want you to grow up to be a person who is a responsible adult. That's your goal. That's a long-term goal. But you need to structure your life so that you can do that rather than just finish X number of worksheets in a day. You know, and sometimes you can accomplish the same thing. I know that you're probably in a place where, yeah, the worksheet's got to be done, but sometimes you can do things in the kitchen that are educational. You know, we made a volcano one time out of Play-Doh, and we had vinegar and baking powder, and it makes it blow up. And, you know, the kids learned about volcanoes in a way that was really interactive and fun, and they even made pictures of these volcanoes blowing up, and they colored them with different colors and things like that. So as a homeschool mother, you have the freedom to do something that is interactive, that teaches, as well as just finishing a worksheet.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
you might be able to even reward them for getting the worksheet done by doing something in the kitchen that's fun. Maybe you could bake cookies together, you know,
And work
once
on
you fit, you know, if you have to finish the worksheet, but make sure that you are interactive and that it's fun, because they're going to learn from your way of handling stress, basically. And if you handle stress by, you know, blowing up and so on, then they're going to learn that method. So you want to try to model to them, this is not, we're not having a great day. Let's see what we can do to have some fun for a little while, then we'll get back to it. And maybe you know, bump the worksheet off to the next day if it's really a hard day. You know, kids
Yeah.
are, and kids are wired differently, so that, you know, maybe that worksheet is particularly hard because they haven't done the developmental changes inside of them to be able to understand it. You know, be aware of that, because that can be a tug of war. And
I'm
that's a
glad
big
that
one. That's a big one,
yeah.
because I remember there was a time that my daughter, she had a terrible time with a clock. You know, and to me, a clock was a clock, you know, and the hands went around it, and, you know, I figured it out. But, you know, the minutes between the hour, you know, because your number will say 12, but it doesn't mean 12 minutes. And then it goes to the 1, it doesn't mean 1 minute. That's a concept for a child that is kind of advanced. And so some kids may not get that till the next year. And if they don't get it, you know, they will probably get it later. So be aware that that could be in there too.
You know, it was interesting. I had this as my last question, but I feel like I want to bring it forward just for a second before I go into the working mom situation. But you said something that really caught my attention. You said, if you're not having a good day, you know, for many that already know, my dad passed away recently. So it's been a plethora of insane emotions. And not just, you know, when I mean, that's just my story. But in this whole COVID-19 history that we're living in, there's a lot of moms out there that, regardless if you had a passing away of someone, you know, close to you, you already suffer from depression and anxiety. So now throwing this on top, it's hard. It's very hard. And I had a sweet friend comment last night, she said, Mavi, you will not ruin him, my son, in 6 to 8 weeks, I promise. But Cynthia, as women, I feel like we have this ruminating factor inside our minds that make us feel guilty of, you're probably going to ruin your kid. And there's times, I mean, even just yesterday, Rio finished his online cooking class. I'm watching him and I'm there crying in the corner. And he looks at me and I'm like, okay, for a split second, I'm like, do I wipe my tears? Do I pretend nothing happened? Do I admit that I'm having a bad day? And I feel like as moms, we try to be such a superhero that, is it okay to show our kid that we're not having a good day?
Of course.
Is it
Of
okay
course.
to show them that we're full of emotions and we're not perfect?
In that situation, particularly because people grieve, and seeing mommy grieve is okay. And in fact, you know, you could tell him, look, I want the best for you. I love you, but I'm not feeling real great right now. And and I want you to forgive me in advance because I'm feeling a little bit edgy, and it would be easy for me to lose it. And if you cry, tell him it's not anything that you did, it's me. This is my problem. I'm grieving over what I lost. That's perfectly helpful. And I think your child will probably be compassionate in that situation because he lost a grandfather, and so
Mhm.
he understands. So you can teach him how to grieve as well.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Cynthia, because I do know one homeschool mom in specific who I love dearly. She has a very harsh autoimmune disease, and she can't even go to the store sometimes.
Mhm.
And I put myself in her shoes, and I'm like, how does she answer the questions when her kids want to play and she physically cannot,
Mhm.
or she physically can't go to the store? So I want to encourage all moms out there, and allow you to help me to encourage that it's okay to show that we're weak.
That's right, because we're not perfect. But God is the only one that is absolutely perfect. And I love that verse in Jeremiah that talks about, my people have committed two evils. They have trusted in broken cisterns that can hold no water. And so you can point them to the cistern that's not broken. When you say, look, my body is not normal. I'm broken and I'm really sorry and I'm grieving over that. I wish I could do this for you. But you can trust in the Lord and he is not going to fail you. So, you're going to have to do that kind of thing. Be honest with him about your own grief about it. I wish I could. I want those moments with you. Could we pretend instead? Or
That's
could we
sweet.
play a game I can handle instead? Would you do that with me?
That's very sweet. Thanks, Cynthia, for sharing that. Now, going to my next question. What about those moms who are working at home while having to take on this new responsibility? So moms that would go to Atlanta or go to Miami, go to the big city, work, and then come pick up their kids and are used to that corporate lifestyle. Or
Mhm.
even moms who, for example, had kids that were in school and they were working at home, office type work, whether it be writers or engineers or transcribers, you name it. Um, and now they're working at home, and now they're homeschooling. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And they're also having to take care of laundry and cooking and cleaning, cleaning like a crazy person,
Yeah.
especially right now. What do you tell this woman?
Well, I think organization is kind of a key. And what I did with my kids is that I made charts. And probably Rio is too young for necessarily to have that much, but you know him and know what would work for him. But what I would do is I would assign things, and throughout the day, that if they got stuck on something and couldn't finish it, then they could go on to something else, or they would have something to do around the house. So, and that's going to require you as mom to keep, to have a couple of eyes, one for your work and one for your kids. And we do this because as moms we multitask a little bit. Well, this is going to make you multitask a little bit, where you find ways to keep your kid busy, where there's a job around the house, or there's a little playtime that he can have. In between those chores, you have a list of things, and you can kind of guide them into doing that while you're doing something that absolutely has to be done. And depending on your child, you may need to keep those moments short or long, depending on the child. But and again, reward them for doing it and doing a good job. And this is a great time to teach your kids some cleaning around the house. Teach them to clean the bathroom. Teach them to clean the kitchen counters. And show and tell. When you teach a kid, you show and tell. This is dirty. Now I've cleaned it. This is clean. And so involve them in doing some household activities as well as their schoolwork. And just have some charts for them so that if they finish something, then they can move on to something else. And you can reward excellence and praise when they do a good job. And then you say, this is a time that I need to work for about 30 minutes without you bothering me, and here's some things you can do. If this doesn't work, go on to this little job or go on to this one. So I think organization is the key. But you're going to know your kids and know what they like and what they don't like, and you can reward them with those types of things.
As you were speaking in my mind, because I'm a visual,
Yes.
an artsy fartsy person, as I like to call it, I was visualizing, okay, mommy is at work and mommy is your boss.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working and so are you. So these are your responsibilities for work. Mommy has to do these responsibilities for work, and here's your reward system. Just like mommy gets paid, you get paid. And it's also a good time to perhaps teach him about money and
Yep.
budgeting. And I know, we can go into another Zoom call about that because you're like the master of history of money over here. So,
Yes, I am.
but it would be really interesting, as again, as you were speaking, it made me realize that I could, create this imaginary play with him, but at the same time, it's benefiting my work schedule.
Exactly. And what you're doing is you're adapting what I said to your situation,
Right,
because you take that and you become creative. So I'm not laying down a rigid, you
right,
know,
right.
because everybody's different and you know your child.
Correct. Something else that sparked is actually when before we started recording this call, you made a comment and you're like, wow, you look really nice. And I'm like, yeah, right. Well, if you were seeing me last night. and I mentioned to you, and I confess that I've been in PJs, and Rio calls it my beach hair don't care, when I don't even brush my hair. And yesterday, as we were in the sofa reading a book, my husband comes down all dressed up with his hair and shaved. I'm like, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to work. And I'm like, where? And he's like, upstairs in the man cave. And I'm like, oh. He says, if I don't dress it, I don't feel it. And if I don't feel it, I'm not successful.
That's right.
So I today woke up very early, and something else hit me too. As I was taking a shower at 6 a.m, I'm like, hey, what's that story? The early bird, right?
Yeah. The
The
early
worm.
bird gets the worm.
Yeah, I felt better emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I knew I had to make it to my call with you. So it was like having that accountability also helped me
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, but also set forth my day for my work as well as my homeschooling with my child.
Well, you've hit on a key right there that I think it takes us a while to learn. And that is sometimes the things that we do bring our emotions behind us, rather than saying, here's how I feel right now and I can't. Make a choice to do something and your emotions tend to follow behind you. If you dress for the day and you feel nice, then you're ready for the day. And it just seems like it works better because your emotions are on board then.
No, that's great. Thank you, Cynthia, for reminding me. What is it? Feelings follow thoughts.
It's like a train. It's like a
Exactly.
choo-choo train.
All right. So I'm going to take you somewhere completely different from homeschooling, from
Okay.
work, and from emotions. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. How about marriage and even sexy time? I don't know about other moms right now, but I believe marriages could be taking a toll right now.
Mhm.
I think that, I have this visual, again, me and my visual and artsy fartsy, of moms like with spaghetti arms all over the place, homeschool, work, clean, da, 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 da. And I'm like, what about marriages? What
Mhm.
about sexy time? We're now dealing with kids that you can't even put the news on because they could be anxious, so they want to
Right.
sleep in the room, and you're like, what do you do? You also want to be a good wife, and not to just, that, hey, you got to be a good wife mentality, but you also want to enjoy your marriage despite the crisis that we're living in right now.
Mhm.
So what would you suggest?
Well, a key to a woman's sex life is her brain. So you're going to have to get that on your mind. And I know that as our cycles go through the month, there are times that it's pretty easy to get in the mood, and there's times that it's harder. So, be attuned to that. But, if you get interested in sex, you're going to have, if you want to plan a sexy time with your husband, you're going to have to let your crock pot stew a little bit. So you're going to have to work on that throughout the day, in addition to everything else you're doing. And we multitask. We can handle it. Another thing I would say is, don't hesitate to let your kids see you be affectionate with your husband. You don't have to start petting heavily and all that kind of stuff. But it's okay for them to see you kiss or hug or whatever and be affectionate.
Sure.
That's probably more security for them, because my parents love each other versus arguing. Um, but make sure your kids are in bed and kind of knocked out before you start carrying on in the bedroom, obviously, because you're so distractible that if they make any noise at all, you're off the boat. So
Right.
that's going to be pretty important.
So not only should we plan homeschooling and work, but also plan sexy time.
Exactly. And like I say, you're going to notice your body's going to get in the mood at certain times of the month just because that's the way you're built and your hormones are going to be just right and all that. So plan for it. Might as well.
Thank you. And Cynthia, I'm glad you mentioned that part of don't shy away from letting your kids see you smooch. And I say the word smooch because there's this program, and I don't know if it's on Disney Junior or something, called Bluey. And it's these two little it's a dog family. And Rio picked up the word smooch because the parents are always smooching.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cute because I remember as a child, when I got married with Scott, I said this to him. I said, Scott, I grew up in a family where I saw my parents kissing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. Like I wasn't looking at Cinderella. I was looking at mom and dad.
Right.
And it taught me the reality of a husband and a wife loving each other the way they should at home, not outside of the home.
That's appropriate.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Cynthia. So thank you.
Well, little boys might say, ooh, gross, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. And I think I just got one more question. Let's see. Someone else just said, Mavi, feel free to contact me anytime if you have homeschool questions. Okay. I just want to make sure that I asked you everything that was posted on my Facebook wall within our phone call. Cynthia, thank you so much for taking my call, my request to answer my plethora of questions, whether they were homeschool, emotional, or marriage questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me help you because I'm done homeschooling. My kids are grown. I'd love to be able to help moms. That's what I'm all about.
Well, thank you. And I would love to be able to maybe perhaps do another call just on the history
Absolutely.
of money. So that would be sweet if we can do that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Take care.
You too.